The Middle East conflict is a deeply rooted and multifaceted struggle, involving a complex mix of historical, political, and religious issues. Over the years, this region has witnessed numerous wars, territorial disputes, and ideological clashes. In a 10-minute discussion, we will focus on key aspects of the conflict, its main players, and the reasons behind the ongoing violence. Historical context. The conflict, often centered around the Israeli-Palestinian issue, traces its roots back to the early 20th century. The collapse of the Ottoman Empire after World War I, combined with increasing Jewish immigration to the historic region of Palestine, set the stage for rising tensions between Jewish and Arab populations. With British control over the region, conflicting promises were made to both Jews and Arabs, sowing seeds of discontent. The pivotal moment came in 1948 when the State of Israel was established following the UN Partition Plan, which aimed to create separate Jewish and Arab states. However, neighboring Arab countries rejected the plan, and a war ensued. This war displaced hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, an event known as the Nakba, or catastrophe by Palestinians. This created deep resentment and led to decades of hostilities between Israel and Arab nations. Key players. The ongoing conflict primarily involves Israel and the Palestinian territories, but it also includes numerous regional and international actors. Israel, established as a Jewish homeland in 1948, Israel has since engaged in multiple wars with its Arab neighbors, expanded its territories, and faced internal disputes over the occupation of Palestinian land, particularly in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. The Palestinians seek the creation of an independent state. They have been divided between two main political factions, Fatah, which controls the West Bank, and advocates for negotiation and diplomacy. Hamas, which governs Gaza and is recognized as a militant group by many countries, has engaged in armed resistance against Israeli occupation. Regional players, countries like Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Iran, have historically been involved in the conflict, either through direct military engagements or support of different factions. Hezbollah, a militant group based in Lebanon, has also played a role, especially in conflicts along the Israel-Lebanon border. Global powers. The United States has long been a close ally of Israel, providing military and diplomatic support, while other nations, including members of the European Union and Russia, have also engaged in various diplomatic efforts. Key issues. Several core issues fuel the ongoing conflict: territorial disputes. One of the central issues is the land itself, particularly the borders of Israel and a future Palestinian state. Israel's 1967 occupation of the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem during the Six-Day War remains a major point of contention. The building of Israeli settlements in the West Bank is seen by Palestinians as an obstacle to peace and the creation of a contiguous Palestinian state. Jerusalem, both Israelis and Palestinians claim Jerusalem as their capital, and the city holds religious significance for Jews, Christians, and Muslims. The international community has mostly refrained from recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital, though some, like the United States under the Trump administration, have taken steps in that direction. The right of return. Palestinians demand the right for refugees and their descendants to return to their homes in what is now Israel. This is a contentious issue, as Israel fears that allowing millions of Palestinians to return would challenge its Jewish majority. Security concerns. Israel points to persistent security threats from groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, which have launched rocket attacks and other forms of violence against Israeli civilians. Israel maintains strict control over Gaza and has launched multiple military campaigns in response to these threats. Meanwhile, Palestinians face daily hardships due to the Israeli occupation and blockades, particularly in Gaza, which has been described as an open-air prison due to limited access to basic resources. In recent months, there has been a significant escalation in violence. Israel has ramped up military operations, particularly in Gaza and along the Lebanese border with Hezbollah. The situation worsened following major attacks, including rocket fire from Gaza into Israeli territory and retaliatory airstrikes by Israel. The West Bank has also seen rising violence, with increasing clashes between Israeli forces and Palestinian civilians. Israeli settlement expansions have further inflamed tensions, with the international community calling for restraint on both sides. Meanwhile, Hezbollah, a major player in southern Lebanon, has been involved in skirmishes along Israel's northern border. With U.S. intervention and calls for a ceasefire, the situation has taken on a larger geopolitical dimension. Over the years, there have been numerous peace initiatives, but none have resulted in a lasting solution. The Oslo Accords in the 1990s were a significant breakthrough, establishing the Palestinian Authority and paving the way for future negotiations. However, subsequent talks, including the Camp David Summit in the year 2000 and efforts by the Quartet on the Middle East, have failed to resolve key disputes, such as borders, Jerusalem, and the right of return. The Abraham Accords in 2020 marked a new chapter in Middle Eastern diplomacy, with Israel normalizing relations with several Arab countries, including the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. While these agreements were hailed as a step toward broader peace, they did little to address the Israeli-Palestinian conflict directly. The conflict has had a devastating humanitarian impact, especially on the Palestinian population. The blockade on Gaza, frequent airstrikes, and clashes in the West Bank have led to widespread casualties, including civilians. On the Israeli side, rocket attacks have targeted towns and cities, creating a constant sense of insecurity. Human rights organizations have called for both sides to avoid targeting civilians, yet the violence continues. The Middle East conflict remains one of the most intractable disputes in modern history. While efforts at diplomacy and peace have been made, the core issues remain unresolved. The continued violence between Israelis and Palestinians, along with the involvement of regional actors like Hezbollah, ensures that the situation remains volatile. Any long-term solution would require addressing key issues like borders, Jerusalem, and security guarantees for both Israelis and Palestinians. For now, the conflict continues to shape the political and humanitarian landscape of the Middle East, with no clear end in sight.